The galaxy had not known true war in centuries. The last great conflict, the Collapse Wars, had ended before humans had even discovered faster-than-light travel. Since then, the galaxy was ruled by an uneasy balance of 5 great alien empires, each proud of their fleets and convinced of their superiority. When the Triumvirate Council announced a new era of cooperation, the 5 empires saw it not as diplomacy, but as an opportunity to boast. They would meet at the Council's central station, an artificial world orbiting the neutral star of Athlon Prime, to display their latest warships before the rest of the galaxy. It was not meant to be a competition, but the moment the empires began arriving, it became exactly that. The first to arrive was the Tazrath Dominion. Their flagship, Storm Reaver, descended into orbit like a metal predator. Its black hull bristled with ion lances and plasma cannons, its silhouette sharp and angular like the claws of the species that built it. The Tazrath warlord's voice boomed across the station. "Our ships are fangs that can tear suns apart. Who dares challenge us?" The second was the Valen Ascendancy, who prided themselves on elegance. Their warships shimmered with gold and silver plating, glimmering under the light of Athlon Prime. They did not boast of brute strength, but of refinement. Ships equipped with precision particle beams that could dissect a vessel atom by atom. They mocked the Dominion for their barbaric aesthetics. Next came the Drogar Hegemony, reptilian conquerors who believed only in overwhelming power. Their battleships were colossal, armored fortresses that moved like mountains through the void. They tested their weapons by obliterating an uninhabited moon in the system, sending its fragments scattering across space. The crowd gasped, half in awe, half in terror. The Zalari Consortium followed, merchants turned warriors. Their ships were unlike the rest, sleek, almost insect-like, each one carrying swarms of autonomous drones. They boasted of efficiency. Why send soldiers to die when machines can do the work for us? Finally came the Uroth Collective, a hive-mind race that believed in overwhelming numbers. They did not arrive with one flagship, but with 1,000 smaller ships moving in perfect synchrony like a shoal of predatory fish. Their message was clear. Individuality was weakness, only unity was strength. Each empire received cheers from their own kind, smug laughter from their allies, and thinly veiled contempt from their rivals. And then it was humanity's turn. The chamber fell quiet when the human delegation entered. They were young by galactic standards, barely 3 centuries into the interstellar stage. Their colonies were small, their technology considered average, their fleets untested in large-scale war. The alien empires leaned back in their thrones, confident this would be amusing. Surely the humans had come with little frigates or outdated cruisers, desperate to be acknowledged. The human envoy, Admiral Kieran Holt, walked to the center of the chamber. He was calm, unhurried, his uniform simple compared to the glittering robes and armor of the other leaders. "We thank the Council for this gathering," Holt said, his voice steady. "We have witnessed the strength of the great powers of this galaxy. You have shown us your weapons, your armies, your fleets. Now, you wish to see ours." The chamber chuckled. Some alien leaders exchanged mocking glances. "Very well," sneered the Tazrath warlord. "Let us see these ships of yours." Admiral Holt raised a hand. "Then look to the void." At first, nothing happened. The stars beyond the station glimmered as always. A few aliens began to laugh openly. Then the stars shifted. No, not the stars. Shadows moved across them, swallowing constellations whole. From the darkness emerged shapes so vast, so impossibly large, that for a moment the galaxy forgot how to breathe. The first human dreadnought appeared, sliding into orbit like a continent forged of steel. It dwarfed every alien ship present. Its hull was not adorned with color or ornament, but dark, simple plating, functional and grim. Along its spine ran cannon barrels longer than most capital ships. Its engines burned with silent fury, bathing the station in pale light. Gasps filled the chamber. Then another dreadnought emerged, and another. One after another they arrived. 10, 20, 50. Each one a fortress, a weapon built not for intimidation, but for extermination. Their sheer size warped the station's sensors. Their armaments were designed not for duels with warships, but for the annihilation of worlds, and they did not stop coming. By the time the last had arrived, the void around Athlon Prime was filled, with 800 human dreadnoughts arrayed in silence, their hulls like silent judges looming over the proud alien fleets. The arrogance in the chamber drained away, replaced by a cold, collective dread. The Drogar overlord, once so eager to boast, now whispered, "Impossible. No species could build so many, not without bleeding their empire dry." The Uroth swarm fell into uneasy silence, their hive mind failing to calculate the human fleet's scale. The Valan admiral, proud of their elegance, trembled as they realized their golden warships looked like fragile ornaments beside the human juggernauts. Admiral Holt let the silence linger, then finally spoke. While the galaxy enjoyed its peace, humanity did not forget the past. We have not forgotten the collapse wars, nor the lesson that peace is only borrowed time. You show your ships as weapons of pride. He gestured toward the void. These are not symbols. They are necessities. We do not build to boast. We build to survive. No one mocked him now. He continued, his voice cold but steady. Each of these dreadnoughts carries weapons older civilizations deemed forbidden. Mass drivers capable of splitting moons, nova torpedoes that ignite stars, shields layered thicker than the crusts of planets. You speak of tearing apart suns. We build to ensure no one dares to try. The alien leaders shifted uncomfortably. They had spent centuries believing humanity was weak, naive, insignificant. And yet, the truth was now undeniable. Humans had been silent, but never idle. The galaxy had flaunted its feathers, like children parading toys. Humanity had arrived not with toys, but with thunder. Finally, Admiral Holt's voice grew softer. Understand this, we do not seek war. But if war comes, know that Earth will not fall. We will not kneel. And if you force our hand, the stars themselves will remember what it means to awaken a human war machine. The chamber remained in stunned silence. None dared to answer. And beyond the station, 800 dreadnoughts floated silently in formation, their shadows falling over. The proud fleets of the galaxy, reminders that the era of underestimating humanity was over. The invitation had been clear. Come, younger races, witness the might of the 5 great empires, and learn what true warcraft looks like. The galaxy rarely gathered for spectacle, but this was different. It was not diplomacy, not peace. This was theater. 5 empires, each convinced of their dominance, wanted the rest of the galaxy to see their power, and humanity, barely 3 centuries into spacefaring, had been invited as honored spectators. The demonstration began with grandeur. The Karathi Empire arrived first. Their flagship emerged from hyperspace like a glowing dagger, its hull etched with crimson war runes. It deployed Sunspear missiles, weapons said to pierce a star's corona and burn entire systems. The Karathi commander smirked, his mandibles clicking. Behold, a weapon to humble even suns! The audience applauded, fearful and impressed. Next came the Selthari Imperium. Their ship was a living carrier, its organic hull pulsing with veins of bioluminescence. From it poured swarms of hunter drones, black clouds of living machines that moved with insectile precision. The Selthari Queen's voice echoed through the chamber. We bring not warships, but predators. Gasps and admiration followed. The Drogari Combine entered third. They were brutish, reptilian, and favored displays of strength. Their warship tested its weapon immediately, an antimatter lance. The beam struck a barren planet nearby, cracking it in half like a clay pot. Fragments of molten rock glowed as they drifted into orbit. The Drogari overlord bellowed, "This is the fate of our enemies!" The crowd roared approval. The Fourth Empire, the Valari technocracy, relied on precision. Their warship gleamed like polished crystal, fitted with latticework weapons. They fired a single shot, and an asteroid the size of a city split into neat, clean fragments, cut as though by a surgeon's scalpel. The Valari Prime Director adjusted his shimmering cloak. "We waste nothing. We leave no error." The final display came from the Zirath Dominion. Their ships were sleek, curved things, like silver blades. They unleashed a demonstration of quantum shields, bubbles of energy that absorbed every test weapon fired at them. The Zirath Admiral declared proudly, "Invincibility! That is what we bring to the void." The chamber erupted in awe, and then, at last, all eyes turned to the humans. The alien leaders leaned forward eagerly. Their faces, scaled, furred, or metallic, wore mocking grins. This was the moment they had been waiting for. "Now, humans," hissed the Karathi commander, "show us what your fragile kind has built. A frigate, perhaps? A corvette?" Laughter spread across the chamber. The human delegation was small, no ornate robes, no alien opulence. Just one man, standing tall in a simple navy blue uniform. His name was Admiral Elias Rourke, and his expression was unreadable. He let the laughter echo a moment longer before answering. "You have all demonstrated your weapons with great pride, and yet I see toys." The laughter stopped instantly. The Selthari Queen's eyes narrowed. "Toys? My drones could strip your world in a single night." The Drogari overlord slammed his claw on the table. "We cracked a planet, human." "Planet? What can your kind do that rivals that?" Admiral Rourke did not flinch. Instead, he raised a small device and tapped a single control. "Allow me to show you." At first, there was nothing. Then, the void behind the station began to warp. The stars shimmered, as if something vast was bending space itself. A low vibration rattled through the station's hull, and out of the distortion emerged a shape, colossal, dark, and silent, a single human dreadnought. It drifted into orbit, blocking out the stars like a moving continent. Its surface was unadorned, no gold, no silver, no markings, just thick. Plates of alloy darker than night. Along its flanks bristled weapons so large they resembled towers, their barrels glowing faintly with restrained energy. The aliens chuckled at first. Just one ship? But then the dreadnought powered up. Sensors across the chamber flickered violently, struggling to measure the energy output. The ship's primary cannon began to hum, a sound that resonated through the bones of everyone present. Without aiming at any vessel, it fired. The blast was not a beam, not a missile. It was a shock wave of directed energy. It did not strike the alien fleets, but the ripple passed through them all the same. Every alien shield collapsed in an instant. Quantum barriers shattered. Drone swarms froze, their control nodes fried. Systems across dozens of ships went dark, as if snuffed out by an invisible hand. The demonstration lasted only 3 seconds. When the dreadnought fell silent, the fleets of 5 empires drifted helpless, their weapons offline, their defenses gone. The chamber erupted in chaos. The Selthari Queen screeched in rage. The Drogari overlord cursed, demanding answers. The Valari scientists frantically tapped at their consoles, unable to comprehend what they had just witnessed, and Admiral Rourke only smiled faintly. That was one ship. The aliens froze. Rourke's voice was calm, almost gentle. But every word struck like thunder. One ship, a fraction of its power, a single demonstration. He tapped the control again. "Now," he said softly. "See the rest." The void tore open again. From hyperspace, more dreadnoughts emerged. 10, 20, 50. Their silhouettes stretched endlessly, colossal shadows swallowing starlight. Each one carried the same terrible silence, the same restrained fury. Their numbers climbed higher until the alien fleets, once so proud, looked like fragile toys beside them. Finally, the count stabilized at 600. 600 dreadnoughts, arrayed in disciplined formation, their hulls black and unyielding. The 5 alien empires, who had mocked, who had laughed, who had flaunted their weapons, sat frozen in absolute silence. Admiral Rourke looked at them, his gaze steady. "You broke a moon. We carry weapons that can unmake stars." He let that hang in the air. "You flaunt your shields. Our weapons ignore them." His eyes swept the chamber. "You command fleets of hundreds. We command dreadnoughts by the thousands." He leaned forward slightly, his voice lowering. "We have not shown ourselves before now, because we had no need. We did not come to boast. But if you think humanity weak, then let today be your lesson." No one laughed anymore. The Karathi commander, once smug, stared wide-eyed at the display. The Selthari queen trembled in her throne, her drones still lifeless. The Drogari overlord, who had shattered a planet, whispered, "What? Have we awakened?" The human admiral gave no answer. He only gave the smallest nod, and the dreadnoughts held their silent vigil, weapons powered but dormant, like gods, waiting for judgment. That day, the galaxy learned the truth. The empires had shown their pride, but humanity had revealed its thunder. For centuries, the galaxy had been ruled by 5 great empires. They were old, powerful, and arrogant, and when they gathered at the neutral system of Eridane Prime, it was not to negotiate peace, but to remind the younger species of who ruled, the stars. The event was called the Convergence of Might. Billions tuned in across the galaxy. Every empire sent its greatest flagship, its finest admiral, and its most fearsome weapons. The humans came too, not as challengers but as observers, at tea. Least, that was what the galaxy believed. The first display came from the Joran Supremacy. Their flagship, Ironfang, emerged from hyperspace in a blaze of crimson light. Its hull was jagged and bristling, its engines roaring like a beast. They boasted of planet breakers, weapons capable of turning oceans into vapor. To prove it, they fired a test volley at a barren world nearby. The surface split apart, molten rivers spreading like veins across its skin. The crowd cheered. The Supremacy had lived up to their reputation. Next came the Velkar Dominion, who prided themselves on scale. Their warship was a Leviathan, a city-sized carrier releasing hundreds of escort frigates in perfect formation. They bragged that their endless swarms had crushed entire civilizations. The Velkar admirals sneered at the Joran. Why crack a planet when you can drown it in fire? Then arrived the Sarithi Syndicate, engineers of cold precision. Their warship gleamed with silver lines, weapon arrays humming with quiet menace. Instead of raw power, they showcased efficiency. A single rail shot obliterated a moon fragment with surgical neatness, leaving not even dust. "Perfection is our weapon," their representative declared smugly. The fourth to arrive was the Akrathi Horde, a savage species that thrived on intimidation. Their warships were covered in scars and trophies, hulls made of scavenged alloys from conquered fleets. To demonstrate, they unleashed shock cannons that rippled through space itself, destabilizing nearby ships' shields. Their warlord roared, "We take, we break, we rule." Finally, the Zethari Ascendancy made their entrance. Their ships were elegant crescents, silver and white, with shimmering energy fields. They claimed their quantum shields were invincible. To prove it, they invited the others to fire upon them. Plasma, rail rounds, shock cannons, All vanished harmlessly against the shields. The Zethari admiral raised his chin. Invulnerability, that is power. The chamber erupted in cheers and jeers, rivalries sparking, egos colliding. The 5 empires had flaunted their supremacy. And then, as the noise quieted, the moderator turned to the humans. "Young Earth," the moderator said kindly, almost condescendingly, "do you wish to contribute to this display?" The alien leaders chuckled. The Akrathi warlord bared his fangs in amusement. "Yes, little humans," he mocked. "Show us your frigates. Entertain us." The humans had sent only one representative, Ambassador Mara Vance. She stood calmly, her black uniform plain compared to the ornate robes and armor of the others. Her face betrayed no emotion. She simply inclined her head and said, "Very well, look to the void." At first, nothing happened. The stars remained still. The fleets of 5 empires glimmered, waiting to laugh, and then the stars began to vanish. One by one, constellations blinked out, swallowed by moving shadows. Something vast stirred in the darkness. The station's sensors began to wail, overwhelmed by signatures too massive to categorize. Out of hyperspace, the first human dreadnought emerged. It was unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Not sleek, not beautiful, not adorned. It was a titan of black alloy, plain and unadorned. Its lines were brutal, functional, made for war and nothing else. Its size dwarfed even the Velkar Leviathan, stretching kilometers long. Weapon mounts jutted from its hull like the spines of some armored beast, each cannon large enough to vaporize a cruiser with a single shot. The crowd fell silent, but it was only the beginning. Another dreadnought appeared, then another, and another, 10, 20, 50. Their arrival was relentless. Each one emerged with silent precision, sliding into formation. They did not boast, they did not fire demonstrations. They simply were. Their presence alone was suffocating. By the time the stream stabilized, hundreds filled the void. The galaxy counted, and when the tally ended, 1,000 human dreadnoughts encircled Eridane Prime. The chamber that had moments ago echoed with arrogance now sat in suffocating silence. The Zethari admiral, pale beneath his silver crest, whispered, "Impossible. No race could build this many." The Joran warlord, who had boasted of planet breakers, now looked like a child with a stick before a wall of giants. The Velkar admiral's voice shook. "Those are not fleets. They are fortresses." Ambassador Mara Vance let the silence stretch, then finally spoke. "You call yourselves rulers of the galaxy. You boast of weapons, of shields, of armies. But you know nothing of war, true war, the kind that leaves nothing but ashes." Her words were cold, each syllable cutting deeper than weapons fire. "You flaunt your might because you have forgotten fear. Humanity has not. We come from a world where survival was never guaranteed. Every age of our history was forged in conflict. Every empire we built fell to fire, and every time we rose stronger. We carry not arrogance, but memory." Her eyes swept across the alien leaders. "You cracked a planet. We have the means to unmake stars. You built shields. We built weapons that bypass them. You deploy swarms. We deploy dreadnoughts that erase them before they fire." She leaned forward slightly, her voice lowering, colder still. "We did not come to impress you. We came to remind you." On the view screen, the dreadnoughts shifted into perfect formation, their black hulls blotting out starlight. Their weapons charged in unison, but did not fire. Each cannon a promise, each engine a threat. The alien fleets, once proud, now looked like toys adrift beside titans. The Akrathi warlord, who had roared with laughter minutes ago, now whispered, "If this is what they reveal, what do they keep hidden?" Ambassador Vance gave the faintest smile. "Enough," she said simply. Enough that if war comes again, it will not be your empires who decide its outcome. It will be humanity. The convergence of might was remembered by billions not as a day of alien pride, but as the day the galaxy learned humility. 5 empires had flaunted their fleets, and then humanity had shown their dreadnoughts, not as symbols of arrogance, but as weapons of survival. And in that moment, the galaxy finally understood. The quietest species had always carried the loudest thunder.